Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Nadia Shafiana with student number 23020330098. Today, I would like to explain about the introduction from one of the articles that I got previously. My article is called Effectiveness of Movies in Teaching and Learning English as a Foreign Language at Universities in UAE. It is written by Ghodah Al-Murshidi, and this is one of the articles from an interdisciplinary journal called Psychology and Education, and it's published in 2020. Right here, I already took a screenshot of the introduction so that it's easier for me to show this in one screen. This time, I would like to explain about the structures for the introduction and also the content of each part or each structure of the introduction itself. Let's start with the first one, the first part of the introduction or the first paragraph. The first paragraph right here, we call this as the background of the introduction. So basically, this paragraph talks about the importance of English or foreign language specifically for UAE students or Emirati students, and also it shows how important the early age language learning. In this case, they said it's kindergarten, right? And also, it also cites several studies that talks about how movies can be one of the tools to learn a language. And then the next paragraph right here, we call this part as the significance. And the significance basically talks about why learning a language is really important, especially in this global era. And also, it talks about how technology has changed the way we communicate, and that makes learning language is even more important to do. And if we see in this part as well, in the significance, there is the problem statement right here, this part. However, the acquisition of a foreign language is one of the most significant challenges as a person faces in his or her lifetime. It shows that, basically acquisition of a foreign language always be the challenge for people who learn that. And that shows how the right or the effective method of language teaching is really necessary. And yes, and also it points out how interest can be built by in this case, by watching movies itself. All right, let's move on to the right part. This one. So the next part or the next paragraph, we call this the literature review, just like the name. So it basically summarized all the previous studies that also talked about how movies as the one of the tools to learn a language itself. It also mentioned that it can develop many basic language skills such as reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And the next part, the next paragraph, we call this the research gap. So even though the previous paragraph talked about the previous studies that have done before, for the research gap, this is our opportunity to show what thing that hasn't been done yet on the previous studies. And this is also the opportunity for us to simply show why our study or this study is really important to do. It's because there are several things that people haven't done yet about the similar topic. And also, finally, we've come to the last part of the introduction. This part, we call this research objectives. And there are 5 points of this research objectives. And just like the name, the research objectives, basically this part talks about five, in this case five significant goals from this study. I think it's pretty clear about the content of the goals or the objectives itself. But yes, in this part, we can show the goals of the study itself. So I think that's all for the structures and also the contents of each structure as well about the introduction. As a conclusion, the introduction talk about the general topic that the study talks about, and also the introduction is our opportunity to explain, or we can also like simply tell about the general introduction so that people with the different background knowledge, they can also understand what is actually the importance of our study itself. I think that's all from me. Thank you so much for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.